Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall. You know, I didn't ask you in the hour-long conversation we just had. What the heck's your background?
This is the City Museum in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, my granddad lives in St. Louis, and he has always said he wants us to go there. And we have been terrified to bring 4 small children there. They're getting older now, so maybe we should.
It is absolutely the coolest adult place in America. And I've seen every place in America when it comes to kids stuff. So yeah, like 10 stories of just repurposed materials from all through the city made into a giant kids playground.
Yeah, huge slides, multi-story slides, and all sorts of crazy.
This orange thing behind me is a slide from the second story to the first story. And then these things that are painted are conveyor belt rollers.
Oh.
So the conveyor belt rollers form a hood over the slide, so you don't fall a story to your death. And then when you go down, you put your hands on the rollers, and then it turns into an art project as the art on the rollers spin as you go down. Absolutely the coolest place on earth.
I think becoming a kid again in many ways really helps you build confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And are you leading us to something?
I thought I might. It's just something that sort of hit me. But this is something that's come up for us several times. We promised everybody a follow-up on our series on crucial conversations, and that's coming very soon. But you and I have been hit over the last couple of weeks with several folks, clients who are wrestling with lack of confidence in a new management leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's exciting because, we're seeing people, and I started to say young people, but that's not the case. We're seeing people who previously hadn't been in a leadership role move into a leadership role. In some cases, they are young, and it's their first experience. And in some cases, they've been a team member for 2 decades, and now they're getting their shot at leading the team, the department. And it's a whole new ballgame.
And some folks maybe have been in a role for a while and are suddenly saying, hey, here's a deficit to my style, and I need to develop in this way, and I don't know how to do it, and I'm really insecure about it, and I'd like to grow in that area, and are being very intentional about it. So you and I have had a lot of intentional conversations about folks wanting to grow in confidence in various new, leadership roles. And so what the heck, let's do an episode about it,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we've literally having conversations this week with incoming and or new managers. So how do you develop confidence as a new leader?
Yeah. So I know we've got at least 3 ideas, but the way you and I work, I mean, it's quite possible that this is going to blow up into something else, but I think at least we have 3 ideas to share with folks.
Yes. I would go with a plethora of ideas, a cornucopia, if you will, of ideas.
My goodness.
Whew.
Somebody's confident.
I got a new thesaurus app. Very excited.
Thesaurus, what's another word for that? Nah, never mind. Forget it.
Book with lots of words. Think about this. I think you had a great example of a conversation that you were having with somebody who's technically competent.
Yep.
So they can do the job. They can do every team member's job backwards and forwards.
Yep.
So if you'd share that story, that one kind of hit home with me.
Yeah, well, this manager is super, super smart and has the confidence of management behind her. Leadership is really, really impressed with her and knows that she's new to the role. They're grooming her. They want her to work. And she made a really interesting statement to me, which was, I know that I can correct mistakes on a bank deposit or on, an income statement. Those are problems that I make a mistake, I can correct those. But once I've said words to somebody, I can't take them back. And so it's sort of freezing her up, right? To like, whoa, I don't want to say anything because it might be the wrong thing, and it, cascades into a bigger issue. And it's a fair point. And her thing was that she didn't want to say anything until she got it all right. Right. Like, I'm going to figure this all out. And the managers that are grooming her, the leaders that are grooming her, are saying, hey, look, this is something over the next 2 years you're going to develop, how you're going to do this gig. And she said, no, I want to do it in 2 months. I want to get all those boxes checked and do it in 2 months. And so what I said to her, and this is our first, I think our first guidance for anybody out there listening, is that instead of seeing this as a destination, see this as a journey. So instead of getting really hung up on the idea that, I'll arrive once I can do this and this and this and this and this, instead see it as, hey, every month I can get better at this or maybe this or this. And in fact, in 2 years, I'll be amazing. But guess what? I'm going to continue to grow after that. This will never end as long as you stay, humble and coachable and wanting to grow and willing to grow. You'll continue to find new things that you're going to develop over time. So see it as a journey of a lifetime instead of this destination that you're going to reach in a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In 2 months, they're not going to pin the leadership medal on you.
Right.
You're now a perfectly formed leader.
Yeah. Right.
Go forth and lead. Yeah, not going to happen. It's like most of the toughest things in our lives. It just gets better over time, and it is as you said, it's a journey. Somebody that we both know and love and admire, that they said something, after 20 years of leadership, they said, if I'd have been better as a leader earlier in my career, there'd be different people on this team. Some people would still be on this team. Because I made some mistakes.
Right.
And so, and here's somebody who's wildly successful, but in retrospect, they know, I made some mistakes along the way. But that's how they got to be the leader they are today. That's how they got to be wildly successful. And there's going to be missteps. There's just no way around it. If it comes from, a good place, it's recoverable oftentimes. Right. But know that, you're not going to be good at it. It's like anything. We have a saying in my house, right? The first time you do anything, it doesn't go all that well.
Right.
We're not allowed to quit, right? Because the second time it's going to go better. Third time it's going to go a little bit better. But just know that going in that, I'm going to make mistakes, and it's okay.
I know a household that has a sort of a painting up over their fireplace, and it says, "We do hard things." Period. And the idea there is really powerful, because you're giving yourself permission to say, this is hard. It's going to be hard, but we're going to do it. We're going to tackle this and get better over time. Good, better, best, never let it rest. Right. That was what our old buddy Dick used to say. Dick Bradley used to say on our very first team that we were on together. And I love that idea that there's always an opportunity for improvement. The Japanese call it Kaizen, right? Continuous improvement. There's always something we can get better at. Make that your mindset.
Oh, definitely. So your first advice was it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
What else did you talk about?
So we've been talking a lot about learning how to coach at this particular client. And so we talked about what is the coach approach in managing. So we talked about the difference between, somebody who comes in and gives you advice and somebody who comes in and just listens. And this actually happened for one of my managers that I'm working with, where there was an issue that was sort of like personal and professional at the same time. And one of their peer managers came in and sat down and just listened. I'm sorry. Gosh, that's rough. bless your heart, things like that were said. I'm in the South, so that's the kind of stuff we say.
Yeah, we have to say that.
We have to say that. Yeah. And then another manager came in and said, hey, here's what you need to do. And for 30 minutes proceeded to lay out the plan that this manager who was struggling needed to follow. Well, guess which approach was seen as really helpful to, this person who was struggling. And so I flipped that around and I said, well, okay, you're a new manager and you want to grow in your skills. How could you go out and approach your people? Which, what are they going to respond to? Mm-hmm. And it was like the light bulb went off. And, it was like, good questions, listening, giving them space to answer. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel like if you're new to this, it's going to feel like, man, I'm just asking lots of questions. I obviously am not bringing anything to the table here. I don't know anything. These people are going to figure out that I don't know anything, right? Mm-hmm. They call it the imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. It turns out that it's the opposite. Turns out that they see you as super, super valuable because this is the first time they've been listened to in maybe 2 months, right? Mm-hmm. This is the first time that whoever you're helping that's on your team has really felt heard. And magically, when they hear themselves talk, they often solve their own problems, right? Just kind of funny how that works. So we just talked about, hey, what if you had a behavior of asking more questions and staying curious longer and listening more, the coach approach.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's fabulous. And one of the things that many veteran managers will tell you that they erred in their early days was thinking that their value came from doing it all and knowing it all.
Right.
Like they hired me, they're paying me more money. I got to know everything. I got to do everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you've wonderfully pointed out, it's just the exact opposite. Yeah, you have to be competent, but the goal is to get your team to know everything and be able to do everything that the department needs to do. If you're the answer man, if you're the go-to person, that feels pretty good. But now you're the bottleneck, you're the cap, you're the glass ceiling on how big your organization can grow and how much they can do. Because once you're maxed out, the whole group is maxed out. Because we're all coming to you. So knowing that your value is not in what you know, but your value comes from your ability to get your individual members of your team to work as a team and to perform at a higher level. That's what they're really paying you to do.
Yeah. And that's the real win, right? Like it's a long-term win. Like you said, there are some short-term advantages to you doing everything and, checking all those boxes and it's all under your control and you know it all, but long-term you don't win. I don't know if you've been following there was a cancellation of a I think it's 10, 11 and 12-year-olds, very prestigious judo championship tournament in Japan. And the All Japan, I think it's the All Japan Judo Federation, something like that. They canceled it. They just stone cold canceled their own event. And the president, who was a former, Olympic gold medalist in judo in the 80s, he basically said, this has not been going well for years. We've been working on it top down, but we've got a lot of places in the country where the dojos and the instructors are super hardcore and they want to win. And there's corporal punishment involved, in disciplining these kids. They're being told to do unsafe moves. Kids have died, literally have died as a result of judo injuries. And some of them are having health problems because they're being told drop weight so that you can go down a weight class. Just got really unhealthy because the focus was on the winning. Like, we're going to check that box. And so here's the quote from the president is he said, real judo is about respect. It's about honoring the humanity and the person across the mat. That's why you bow, before and after the match, you bow to enter and leave the mat and so on and so forth. This is all very timely for Mark Ramsey because my kids were kicked out of judo for a session because they weren't listening to sensei. It was the greatest day of my life to see everybody kind of go, what, really? You mean our behavior matters? But our sensei handled it really well because he was listening to them and saying, hey, do you notice what just happened? And that's in the Japanese example, that's basically what he said, is that judo, that's what that's about, is you're supposed to be honoring the humanity of the person across from you. Giving advice and having all the answers doesn't honor the humanity of the person across from you. Listening does. So, all right, I'll get off my Japanese soapbox because apparently I have one today.
Yeah. I had no idea that. Elementary school judo was
I know
top of mind. But it did remind me. I had a judo instructor in college, and I remember one of the few times I saw him get mad was when somebody wore their judo gi, the uniform, to class, and so it was visible on campus.
Oh,
and in judo, we are humble. We don't, it's Fight Club. We don't talk about judo. We don't. Even when you brought your uniform to class, it had to be in a bag, right? You weren't displaying it. You weren't showing off.
Yeah.
It was a very humble thing, and that kind of philosophy, was so important to him as an original practitioner from, I believe he was from Korea, and that was, there were certain things that you just had to pay respect to, and what you were saying kind of goes to that being humble. I don't have to stand at the bow of the ship and point the way. It's okay to say, I'm not sure how we should proceed on this. What do you guys think? In a collaborative approach where we, so what do you guys think? Some of you have been doing this longer than me. Acknowledge the expertise that's in the room. And get some feedback. You always have the last right of refusal because you are the manager, but you're going to hear some good stuff, and more importantly, kind of like you said, if you listen, people will appreciate that their ideas got a fair hearing. So I think that's huge. So what other advice did you give?
One last thing that we talked about, and this was it sort of bubbled up in a sideways fashion, but I said, this person's an office manager. I said, what's the way you would do this? All this stuff we had been talking about. I said, what would it look like for you to do these things and really be you? And her first thought, which, she's so spot on. She said, I'd take notes. Yeah, that's what I do. I take notes, because she takes notes about everything, right? She's trying to get everything hoovered into her magnificent brain to make sure she's capturing it accurately, right? So that she can put it onto the books accurately, for instance, as an example. But here it's, when somebody has a problem and they come to me and we're dialoguing about it, I'm going to take notes because that's who I am. That's what I would do, is capture it to make sure I've got it right. And so we talked about, do that and let people know you're doing that, right? So for her, it might look something like, hey, I know this is a real problem for you. Let me get out my notepad. And I'm just, so we're clear, the reason I'm doing this is because this is how I think. I'm really taking this seriously. And when I take things seriously, I take notes.
Right? Oh, yeah. That's
now,
perfect.
You could have a million other examples. It doesn't need to be note taking. The point number 3 is not go take notes. Point number 3 is do it your way and tell people you're doing it your way so that they know you're taking it seriously.
Yeah. I've got a manager, and the thought of sitting down across from somebody is just terrifying. So he's a walk-in manager. He's a walk-in coach. So he'll get somebody and they'll just wander around and talk while they're walking and figure things out. And that's, he's one of the people who never sits still. So for him to sit still and be formal, it's just not going to work. It's just not him. So he's found a way to do that. Had another leader, and we decided we'd have an all-employee meeting, about 100 employees, and the guy almost stroked out on us. The veins were sticking out, sweat, just pouring down him, and just and he lived, we got done with it, and he looked at me and said, we're never doing that again.
Poor guy.
I said, nor will I ask. But what we figured out was his limit was about 7. If you put him in front of 7 people, he was magnificent. He could
Uh-huh.
share the vision. He was engaging.
Yep.
It was just powerful leadership. So we arranged for him to, meet with groups of up to 7 people at a time.
Perfect.
He held court and championed the cause, and shared where we were going, and it was absolutely perfect.
I'll tell you, even in that first session where he was all sweaty, I bet the people really appreciated seeing the real him.
Oh yeah, they could all see that. Yeah, he was doing this. He was doing it for them, and it was almost going to kill him.
Yeah, right.
He was going to die bravely in the attempt. It was something to see.
Well, you think about, and I know we've talked about, is it Terry Mcauliffe that was known as Nuts Mcauliffe after the Battle of the Bulge, and he had a career after that. It really combines all three of the things we've talked about here. But he's stuck in the Bulge during World War II, surrounded by Germans, formally asked for a surrender, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's with his leadership team, and he, I heard an eyewitness of being there that he took off his helmet and scratched his head and said, "Oh, nuts." He had no clue. And but man, he was so authentic, right? They believed that was really him, and they loved him. And one of his people said, hey, I think he was maybe a lieutenant at the time. I don't know what he was, but they said, hey, maybe that's it, sir. What? Yeah, right back, nuts. And the formal reply to the Germans was, blah blah blah, nuts. Sincerely, Admiral Mcauliffe, or Lieutenant Mcauliffe, or whatever he was. And it was, this game-changing, galvanizing moment for the Allies that got them through to where that was one of the last gasps of the Nazis. So I guess what I'm saying there is, obviously it is a journey, but if you go on that journey, right? I mean, we do get the results that we want in the end. We do ultimately, win, make money, define that how you want to. But I suspect along the way, you're going to have a lot more fun being your real self, being humble enough to talk to people and thinking of it as a journey than you would have if you had just gone to check the boxes and try to win. It just doesn't work that way.
Oh, definitely. Well, and one of the things I was talking with a manager about literally yesterday was who do you get to go on this journey with you? And so there's your team members. And one of the things we talked about was who's your network, who's your sounding boards.
Yeah.
And we deal with automotive dealerships, and they're all in what we call 20 groups.
Right.
So it's similar stores in non-competitive markets, and they share everything. And that was the perfect place to begin. All right, so there are people who have departments just like yours, similar market, similar size stores, non-competitors, and they would love to have somebody to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
And just who's your network, who you're building.
Yeah.
The last thing that we talked about was the continuous learning. If I'm on a journey, right, I have to get continually better. And we live in the golden age of information. So literally, if I type leadership into YouTube, I'm going to get 250,000 different resources that are going to come back.
Right.
And so just figuring out, what's that saying? Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to have to, if you truly want to master the craft, you're going to have to take advantage of all the great writing, all the great leaders who've put their words into podcasts, videos, books, audiobooks. There's just no way around, when I start to think about all the great leaders I've known in my life, all of them were students of the craft. They were all either learning from somebody in person or learning from some type of resource. And so whether it's movies, books, podcasts, right, all this cool stuff that we've got, you just gotta avail yourself of those things.
Boy, humility really does run through all of the examples we've given. I hadn't really noticed that until you brought up that last point there, that you're constantly going to be a student. That takes humility.
Mhm.
Saying that you're on a journey takes some humility to say, I'm not there yet.
Mhm.
Coming to your people and listening and genuinely trying to learn about what's going on, that takes humility. And coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to be myself here, guys. Apologies for the warts and hiccups you're about to experience. That takes humility. So this whole thing is about being humble.
Mhm. Yeah, and people will see right through it. If you show up and pretend
Yeah.
you know everything, can do everything, and are this amazing leader, yeah, that'll get you about 3 seconds.
Yeah, right.
It just won't
Right.
work.
Right.
Yeah, be yourself, continue to grow, ask for help, whether from your team or from your peers. Yeah, you may not hit your 2-month timeline that you've artificially created in your head,
Right.
but you will every single day get a little bit better. And that's all anybody can ask of you.
Can I throw in one bonus thought that it's a bonus thought. It's not part of this list.
Aren't you glad you waited till you listened all the way to this part?
You lucky people who are holding out, man.
Oh, man,
Was there another nugget coming? Oh, yes, there was.
Oh, it's right here. Please take it away.
Okay, I'll do that. I believe that a lot of us are pinning our worth on something external: winning, money, approval of our direct reports, approval of our peers, whatever it is. There's 4 good examples of things that we shouldn't pin our worth on. And I don't know what this looks like for everybody. And I think this is maybe a little dangerous to make just a blanket statement about it. So I'll just personalize it for me. But I don't know that I even find internal worth. And what I mean by that, I know, that's the frown that I expected.
Steep.
I know that I've got some real issues, some real as Ben Crosby called it in White Christmas, a little larceny operating in me. I know me well enough to know that. I think the Bible says, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, something along those lines. Think of it in that way. And so it is really helpful for me when I am struggling with self-worth, as we call it nowadays, to think, hey, in my Christian religion, God chose me, right? God said, I'll die for that one. That's worth, right? Apparently I'm worth the price of God dying on the cross. Okay, fair enough. Now, look, I get it that not everybody listening to this is coming at it from a Christian faith, but I wanted to give that as an example that, like, I'm not going to let these outside things and performance anxiety and imposter syndrome, I'm not, like, when I'm intentional about how I'm living my life, I'm not letting those things define my worth and giving me a good day or a bad day based on those things. I got a little higher authority on that is going to come through on that. So I guess I say that just as a nugget for anybody who goes over this list and is still thinking about sort of, I guess we could say, external validation, or whatever would be the psychology term. It ain't going to work. So don't go down that road.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely correct. And the simple definition of this might be, at the end of the day, can you say I did my very best? And then you can rest well knowing that tomorrow I'm going to try again.
Yeah. And by the way, sometimes I don't do my best.
Right.
And I'm still going to get up and try again. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because that's not going to define me. That's not going to be the basis of my worth.
Right. Well, I remember when my daughter, she was in her teens, and she found some of her artwork from, when she was 6 or 7. And she's like, I have to destroy all of this. Right? It's the most embarrassing, this must not exist in the world. No one should ever see this, And I'm like, at that time, that was your best.
Yeah.
That was, you were doing, that was as good as it got. And
right.
You were very proud of it at that time. You were, and even the part that you weren't proud of, it motivated you to get up and try it again. And as you could see, we had stuff over the years, right? It just kept getting better.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you can't tear it up, you can't throw away what happened, but know that was a building block to where you are now.
Love it. Love that. That's a great example. Well, on that happy note, let's talk to somebody who is very sure of his self-worth.
Yeah, and is never happy. Love that guy.
And there you have it, another session of contemporaneous extemporizing from Mark and Mike. I know it's redundant, but consider who we're talking about. As always, feel free to share the ideas you heard here. No rights are reserved, no permissions needed. Thanks. See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.